Hey there, welcome to the Marketing Happy Hour podcast, where each week we're learning career-defining advice, powerful social media strategies, unique creative tips, groundbreaking influencer marketing tactics, and more from marketing experts that represent some of the world's leading brands. Let's dive in. Grab a drink and join your hosts, Cassie and Erica, for this week's episode.
Hey there, thank you so much for tuning in to Marketing Happy Hour. I can't wait for you to hear from Adam Cilley, Social Media Content Director at Sports Card Investor. Cassie and I first met Adam during our Clubhouse days when he was working as Senior Social Media Specialist at Clearwater Marine Aquarium, and he shared the inside scoop on how he was able to grow their TikTok by hundreds of thousands of followers. Now, he catches up with us to uncover how to navigate social media video strategy between platforms, share his experience changing industries from nonprofit to for-profit, moving through burnout in his social media position, and his keys to success in a social media career. Grab a drink and listen in to this week's episode of Marketing Happy Hour.
Hey Adam, how are you? Welcome to Marketing Happy Hour.
Hey, doing well, Cassie. Thank you for having me on.
You're so welcome. So we had you on Clubhouse, like a year and a half ago.
So long ago.
When Marketing Happy Hour was barely a thing. So super excited to just check in with you and see what's up in your life and career. I know you've been up to a lot just based off of following you on LinkedIn. So before we do that though, we do ask all of our guests a very important question because it is Marketing Happy Hour. Adam, what is in your glass this evening?
Unfortunately, not too exciting. Just drinking some water, just trying to rehydrate, getting ready for going back to moving to Tampa and getting ready for beach weather. So just trying to limit the amount of adult beverages going in. But yeah, thank you for having me on again. I feel like it's been a long time coming. Partly it's actually all of my fault because I switched careers and moved, and now we're doing this right months before I moved back. So yeah, I apologize, but thank you for being patient with me.
Do not worry at all. We are super excited, like I said, to check in. And I am also not super exciting on my end here. I have a big thing of water and I also have kombucha because I just got back from a trip to New York City and ate way too much and drank way too many fun drinks. So I'm trying to kind of also detox my body a little bit. So Erica, what about you?
That's fantastic. I took a page out of your book. I am double fisting, as you always are, with water. And I had another Marketing Happy Hour recording before this, and I made myself a little Negroni. Now, there right now is like a trending audio that's talking about a Negroni Spagliato with Prosecco in it. So I don't know. If you know me, my favorite go-to drink is a Negroni. So I was like, I need to try that. So I did a little spin on it and it's really, really good. So highly recommend. A very good trending audio there.
Yep. Yeah. The Game of Thrones cast, right? I think that's who did it. So. Yeah.
It's House of Dragons.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. The proper name.
Only reason why I want to have that drink.
I know. I want to try it too. I myself am watching the show and I'm loving it. So I saw that and I was like, I need to try it out and see how that is just because I love the cast so much. So, yep.
Okay. Well, let's dive right in here. I know we have like a lot to cover. So, Adam, we chatted a lot about your career journey, during our Clubhouse session early last year, which seems so long ago. And I know that you've been up to a lot since then. I'd love for our listeners to just hear how you launched your career in social media. Did you always want to work in social? How did you navigate your college experience and land your first job? I know that's a lot of questions in one, but just like walk us through that process.
Yeah, so I think I'm reaching like 8 years into social media now. I can take you back to like the very, very beginning. I was going to the University of Connecticut. I'm from Connecticut originally, and I was studying American studies. I was all in on becoming a history teacher. I just thought that that's the path that I was going to follow. And during the weekends, I was up at Storrs campus. It's probably like 45 minutes away from my hometown. Go home on the weekends, and I worked at an arcade at Mohegan Sun. It's a pretty big arcade. It was like split in half. There's like babysitting, so you can drop your kids off, go gamble, go to a show at the arena. But then the other side is just your traditional arcade. And I worked my way up there from, you know, part-time to supervisor to assistant manager. And there was just this like aspect of social media that kind of got my interest, and a way that we can promote the arcade with some of the prizes that we were getting in. So I was using, I think it was like the iPods, the iPod, like that was like a phone almost.
Wow.
And
the iPod, was it the touch, like the iPod touch before the iPhone?
So yeah, Nano was the one that didn't have a screen at all.
Yeah.
And then there's iPod Touch.
Yeah.
Man, it was, those things didn't have cameras on the back. So I was literally like taking photos, like holding it up, facing towards the prizes. But that just kind of like hooked me. I had an interest in it, and you know, I was able to see building something out of nothing. So then once I finished my bachelor's degree, it's like, I don't want to teach anymore. I want to try to like learn a little bit more about this. So there's a university up in the Northeast, Southern New Hampshire University. It's got a campus, but it's primarily known as being an online university, and just did like a social media marketing graduate certificate. And from there, it was just like hooked. And I was just trying to find a job in social media with no experience. I wasn't really fortunate enough to do internships during college. I was working on the weekends. But then my local aquarium, Mystic Aquarium, probably halfway between Boston and New York. And if you've ever seen the movie Mystic Pizza with Julia Roberts, then you know exactly that little quaint New England town. Well, there's a big aquarium there with beluga whales and California sea lions and African penguins. Big tourist destination. So they were hiring for a social media and analytics specialist, and got my foot in the door there, and worked there for, I want to say it was probably like 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 maybe. And it was just like such a fun job, and I was hooked because that was like the place that I grew up going to like field trips on. So we were able to, you know, spread the message of all the work that they were doing with the animals. And I just knew, like, even going to college, I didn't want to stay in the Northeast. So I was looking for other opportunities, not even specifically aquariums, but something popped up with Clearwater Marine Aquarium. I never heard of it. I just saw them online, got interviewed, asked if I ever heard about Winter of the Dolphin, said no, was told to go watch the movie that night, and I watched the movies. But yeah, then I moved down there and worked there for 2 years. And I moved like right as the pandemic happened. Like my mom was stuffing my Jeep with toilet paper. I sold everything, but it was like toilet paper was selling out. She stuffed my car. And my brother lives in Charlotte, did the 1-day drive down to Charlotte, drove next day from Charlotte to Florida. And that second day, Clearwater's like, hey, we're closing. Like, sorry, like there's nothing we can really do. So very thankful to that organization. To, you know, they could have easily said, hey, like, we can't take on any new hires, we don't know the uncertainty, but they were able to take me on. And it was a roller coaster of 2 years, an organization that I'll forever be grateful for them giving me the opportunity and be able to, you know, be a voice behind their social accounts. And then, you know, I was looking for other opportunities outside. I wanted to try to challenge myself a little bit more in social media, get outside the aquarium nonprofit world, and saw an opportunity with a company called Sports Card Investor. We're a content organization. We have an app available in the Apple Play Store and Google Play Store. We have a software called Market Movers, which allows you to track all of the eBay sales of your trading cards, just hobby related. Something that I grew up in, and was sports have been a mainstay of my life. So yeah, now I'm director of social content for them. And it's been a fun 8-10 months that I've been in here. I guess that's how I can like give you that's not an elevator speech at all. That was way longer than an elevator speech, but that's like a short synopsis of me.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's so cool. And I hadn't heard before I moved down to Florida of Clearwater Marine Aquarium either. But I know Cassie was a big fan, always a big fan. She, I think at one point wanted to do something in like marine biology. Is that true, Cass?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was going to say too, you kind of had a perfect segue. I worked there for several years, so
Yeah.
loved it. Yeah. Obsessed with that place even still to this day. So yes.
Oh my gosh, so fun. Adam, do you have any, while we're kind of on the subject of like changing jobs and things like that, do you have any tips for like the interview process for someone looking to get started in social media?
Yeah, so when I got my foot in that door at Mystic, like, I walked in there, and I'm a guy who's posting to Instagram for an arcade, uh, 10 minutes out of his day when he's trying to help customers. So what I got from feedback is I stood out because I went into the interview processes with research and action items on, like, what they could do to help further their social media. So rather than just trying to give them like the little bit of experience that I have, I told them, like, within my first 3 months, these are opportunities that I see to help grow the account. This is like early stages of social media. So I think they had like 2 weeks worth of Instagram content. And,
Wow.
in that day and age of social media, I feel like a dinosaur at this point. I feel like social media manager years are like dog years. Like, you're so much older than what you actually are.
Yeah, probably even more than dog years. Isn't it like 7 years for 1 year for a dog? It's probably like 14, probably double that for social media.
That'd make me like 140.
Great, love it.
Like, I was pointing out that they weren't using any hashtags on their Instagram posts. And I was able to use some, I can't even tell you the name of these web browsers, but it was just like hashtag research, and it was telling me,
.com.
if if you're able to use these hashtags, then you're able to, expand your reach by 3x. And so I think when you go into those interview processes, you need to lean on yourself and your experiences, but then also show them and prove to them, give them some examples. Don't tear apart their work, but show them areas that they're doing well, but then little pockets that they can, that you can come in and help further upon.
Oh, absolutely. Someone just reached out to me today asking me about like the world of social media and how to like get their foot in the door. And that's exactly the advice I gave, wherever you're going, just make sure that you're knowledgeable about the space and give them some opportunity to, get a peek into like what and where you think they could go. And that's such good advice. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So Adam, we mentioned a minute ago, you worked for CMA for a little bit of time. And if you're not familiar with CMA, it is a rescue, rehab, and release facility for marine animals down in Clearwater, Florida. Highly recommend going to check it out if you can. But Adam, so you led CMA's social media strategy for quite a bit of time. And especially during the pandemic, I saw personally huge growth for your guys' platforms. And it was really impressive to watch from afar. But could you tell us some of the strategies you implemented to try to reach and grow that audience during that time you were at the company?
Yeah, so I get down there, like I said, and they're shut down. So, all of the money that they get, or not all of the money, but a large chunk of the money that they get to help, rescue, rehab, and release those animals, is through guests walking through those doors every day. And that just is taken away right away. So I get in there, meet all my coworkers virtually, and we need to pivot. We need to figure out a way to, leverage social media, leverage our email, leverage our website to be able to raise funds for the animals. So we actually launched a really fun initiative as I joined, where, it's not directly social media related, but we were able to use social media for it, where people can order personalized videos from their favorite rescued animals for a small donation. So we were able to do that. A lot of my time was like at the aquarium. At that time, it was me, the facilities team, the animal care team. That's about it. And we were recording those videos, getting them uploaded to Google Drive, emailed out. So that was huge. But then we were also able to pivot there, and we were the first aquarium on Cameo. Fiona if you know the hippo, if you know her from the Cincinnati Zoo, she was the first animal, but we were the first aquarium. So that was a lot of fun and, super rewarding. It was very successful. We were getting hundreds of orders a day, and, we would do thousands of videos in that time. But then we were also able to, one fun thing is that was like the launch of TikTok, right? As you see, a lot of people were spending time scrolling through that app. And they posted about 3 videos before I got there. And, a lot of the animal care staff, when they're at the aquarium and there are guests coming through, they spend a lot of time doing presentations, just educating the guests about those rescued animals, their stories. They have so many great individual stories, but when nobody's there, they're just, feeding the animals and keeping them enriched the best way that they could. And so I was like, why don't we just try, at that time, I feel like TikTok has evolved so much. And that time it was like the dance craze of TikTok.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I had to make the animal care trainers dance a lot, and we would have like little cameos from the animals in the background. And that was something unprecedented. I've never seen before on social media. We grew from 0 to 400,000 followers in like 3 weeks.
Wow.
So it was a lot of fun, and then we were able to pivot and able to use social media and TikTok, our following at that time, like tell the stories. And you would see all the comments. People are like, is that Winter from Dolphin Tale? And everybody's rediscovering their childhood. And we were able to do a lot of fun things. And like I would say, like the second evolution of TikTok, where it's more storytelling and able to do a lot more original content. One of my favorite things that I was able to do there is there's a golden retriever in Tampa named a golden named Kevin.
Yeah,
and
we love
him.
We got Kevin to the aquarium, but we did it in a fun way. Like we didn't just invite Kevin. We sent Kevin a gift basket, and Kevin watched Dolphin Tale, and then we FaceTimed and invited Kevin, and the animal care team got to like love on Kevin. And so I would say that like when I look back on my time at Clearwater and managing their social media, I really have fond memories of TikTok and how I was able to leverage building a new audience and helping out the aquarium through that time.
It sounds like you were really able to tap into your creativity. Like that is so fun. I mean, I'm sure it was stressful at the time, like not knowing what's ahead and trying to just like create content to like keep this thing going. But looking back, that's so cool. Like you really took that and ran with it. I love that. I love hearing about that. It's so interesting.
Yep. And I like too, we don't necessarily always think about Cameo as being a social media platform, but it kind of is in a way. It's very connective and things like that. So to Erica's point, just you guys got so innovative with that, especially for a nonprofit organization, figuring out ways to engage the audience during that time. But to that point too, Adam, I'm just curious, outside of TikTok, and you mentioned kind of in a way influencer marketing with Kevin. He is a huge name on social media. Anything else? Yeah. Anything else that you guys were doing outside of those 2 areas? Any Instagram strategies? I know it's kind of weird while TikTok was building. People were like, okay, what do I do with Instagram versus TikTok? Any ideas or thoughts there, and some of the strategies that you guys instilled during that time?
Yeah, it's funny now looking back on it. It's almost easier because now everything that you make a TikTok, you're just going to throw it on Instagram and it's a reel and it's going to perform well. But at that time, like reels weren't a thing. IGTV was still around, where it was just so there was a lot of balancing different content, because we have the CMA accounts, but then Winter had her own accounts as well, and we had large followings on Facebook and Instagram. We did a lot of fun things on Instagram at that time. One of the dolphins there, his name's Nicholas. Nicholas is my absolute favorite. He has a fantastic story as well. It's sad, but he was stranded with his mother, and they actually the mother passed away, and he was very young at the time. I think less than 6 months or 6 months old. And he got sunburns on the back of him, so he's got these scars. But Nicholas is just like a ball of energy. He loves to have fun, and they launched something before I got there called Nick's Picks, where he would pick like winners of um, sporting events. So lucky me, I moved from Connecticut where Tom Brady won 6 Super Bowls, and 2 weeks after I moved, Tom Brady moved to Tampa. So
Imagine that. That's so funny.
and not to mention the Lightning, and not to mention the
Yeah.
Rays like made the World Series that year. I'm like,
That was like the
Yeah.
golden year of
Yeah.
Tampa sports, and I was so obsessed. And Cassie came over for the Super Bowl when we were in it. Oh, such good times.
And then the Super Bowl's in Tampa, so it's just like,
Right.
Oh my gosh. Crazy.
so we got to do fun Nick's picks around that. You know, it was very discussed of like who Nick is gonna pick. Are we gonna rig it? Are we gonna make Nick pick the Buccaneers? He actually picked the Chiefs.
Wow.
But yeah, we got to do a lot of fun stuff around my current job. I love sports. Got to do a lot of fun things on Instagram with sports. So the Stanley Cup came to visit. We were able to get a lot of like fun. I don't even think there were reels at the time, but video content around that. There is his name's escaping me right now, but Olympic swimmer who was from Tampa, and there was a seahorse that was rescued outside of the aquarium that was brought in that actually had a bunch of babies, and we named the seahorse after him, and he brought his Olympic medal in and came and met the seahorse. And if you know anything about seahorses, they're terrible swimmers. They actually die from exhaustion because they're so bad at
Oh my
swimming.
gosh.
I did not know that.
Yeah, like we were, nothing like directly with like specifically to Instagram because we had such a Facebook following, but we just got to, that's my favorite thing about social media is telling these stories. It doesn't have to always be just limit yourself to one post, but able to, tell things throughout a week's time, a month's time.
Yeah. And how does being at a nonprofit and then now I'm assuming a for-profit organization that you're at now, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does that differ for you? Was that kind of a weird learning curve to go from nonprofit to for-profit, and how did those strategies differ between the two?
Yeah, it's completely different, especially since I left and went to like a small startup where our current team at SCI is around 20 full-time employees, whereas like CMA's marketing department was, I want to say, around 12 itself.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a lot of differences that I've noticed so far. As far as CMA, you wanted to find, there's a lot of guidelines with animal rescue, a lot of stuff with the Florida Fish and Wildlife, that you want to make sure that you're showing the right things in terms of like the releases and stuff like that. But then with SCI, it's just, we can be a little bit more edgy, can have a little bit more fun with memes, step outside the box. Whereas like the first couple months, I'm like, hang on, we probably shouldn't be sharing that. Like that's not, and they're like, nah, it's fun. And then you just see like the audience react to it and enjoying it. So there's some subtle differences. The biggest thing from like these two jobs that really has challenged me is CMA, all of their Instagram at the time, before video, it's super photography driven. So I was able to get up from my desk, walk around, and just be inspired by, seeing, some new enrichment that Nicholas got, or seeing a new exhibit that's being built that we are going to premiere. Whereas this job, it's like, you got to find stuff on the internet. All the graphics that you're going to make are, the Instagram is going to be primarily graphic driven. There are some photos, but that I would say is probably like the biggest challenge that I've had so far.
Shifting gears just a little bit, I would love to learn more about your current role with Sports Card Investor. I was just looking at the Instagram. It looks so cool. How did you navigate that industry shift while staying in a social media role? You touched on it a little bit, but I don't know if you had any other major things that stood out to you.
Yeah, like I said, it was a challenge with, everything's a lot design based. And my biggest pet peeve right now is like Instagram reel thumbnails. So we even we're even making like thumbnail reels. I love the aesthetic, like following it. Like whereas like the aquarium was just photo based, and just kind of like the photos had like the same type of look to them, but like this, I just try to like match the theme of it. Like I said, the biggest shift that I've noticed and how I've been trying to adapt is, with the aquarium, we were given like, we would know certain things were coming. We knew an exhibit was coming, and we would have to prepare. This is our social media plan for it. This is the types of photos that we want to get. This is a video. If there's a sea turtle release, we would have a couple days notice, and like, we would get repetitions on that, and they would do a lot of them in these certain beaches where, they weren't heavily populated. So I was able to, be prepared. I knew going into the situation kind of what to tackle, but with like sports, you never know. And especially the trading card market, there's breaking news, and a lot of these things you don't know until there's a tweet that comes out about it, and then you have to pivot and have that breaking news graphic out and ready. And because it's just like there's this race to get to social media first with it. Like one of the early examples that I have is Fanatics. They purchased Topps Trading Company, so that happened at like 10 o'clock at night, and I was just like in bed, like getting the graphic out. So that's been a fun adjustment, just learning about it. But like I said, sports have been something that have always just come to me, and something that I always keep up with. So it's not a burden. It's an enjoyment, and discovering these stories and telling these stories and finding different ways to do content, Throwback Thursday type of stuff, or just like going out to card shows and highlighting these like very valuable cards and different aspects has been a fun experience so far, and a challenge, and something that I really enjoyed. And I think, when I look back at Mystic and I look back at CMA and I look at here, I've discovered that I've loved building things, whether that's CMA's TikTok, Mystic's Instagram. With these guys, when I joined 10 months ago, they had about 60,000 Instagram followers, and a month ago we crossed 100,000. So we were able to, have a lot of success in the algorithm. A lot of things were being picked up. We were able to leverage Reels very well, and there was no TikTok when I got here either. So I've been putting content on there, repurposing a lot of our YouTube videos. We're known for our YouTube following. So we were able to take that content, put that on there, and I think we're at like 97,000. So it's been a lot of fun building things and seeing that process come to fruition.
What is your current strategy right now? What content have you seen perform well or not so well? I know you mentioned you're on Instagram, and that's performing really well with like Reels, and you've gone on to TikTok. Is there any other platforms that you guys are concentrated on, and what's performing well there?
So we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Like those are the primary ones that we're sharing content to daily. As far as the current strategy that we have on there, so we were founded by an entrepreneur. His name is Jeff Wilson. He owns a marketing agency that's called 352, and he rediscovered trading cards with his son. And so he started off on his own by going to what's called the National. It's the biggest card show of the year, and they bounce around every city. So I think this year was his third or fourth. So we get a lot of inquiries because they'll make vlogs out of going to these card shows, and he'll sometimes buy very expensive cards, and then sometimes we'll just like get to meet really interesting people. So we've been able to take a lot of that content where he's out, and it's our YouTube content that's 10+ minute long videos, and say, hey, let's chop out this little period of him purchasing a card and throw it up on Instagram. And that has really seen a lot of success. So we've been leaning into that. And then outside of that, he was in LA for the summer, and him and a videographer went to an Angels game. And have you seen, there's like those videos where a guy will walk around and say like, hey, would you rather have this or $10? Or like,
yes.
I think one of the trends is like, do you want 2 cookies, or do you want me to double it and give it to the next person?
Yeah.
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 So we were doing that. We were walking, or he was walking around the Angels game and being like, "Hey, do you want this like Mike Trout card, who's an Angels player, or do you want, $5?" And the Trout card would be worth like 15 or 20, and that got great reception. So that's been on our TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram, and has been successful. So we're looking at. I mentioned it once, and Kelly Francis, our VP of content, she loves to use it, but we're looking for that like snackable content, things that we can put out there that people are able to digest in 30 seconds to a minute, and really captures their attention.
I love that. You mentioned YouTube Shorts, and that's a huge thing that I am just so curious about. How do you find that platform? Is it as successful as like a TikTok or a Instagram Reels, or is it more like just on the come up?
So we have 3 videographers and editors that will film our content and put it out on YouTube. So my current role, like I would manage SCI's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and then they would manage YouTube. But then Jeff, he has his own social media accounts. So we film some like business type reels, him giving some entrepreneur advice, things outside of sports card content. And I was managing that YouTube. So I would just take what we were getting for Instagram Reels and TikTok and putting it up on there.
Cool.
So one day I wake up and I'm like, this video went from like 3,000 views to like 40,000 views in a couple days.
Wow.
That video right now, I think we've got one that has 10 million, one that has 4. And there's just like, so our video team that manages the SCI YouTube, they're like, we're gonna need some of those Instagram Reels, like the files. Can you send them back to us? So yeah, they've had fantastic growth on there as well. And it's just been, it's unfortunate because it takes a little bit out of the creativity of like different platforms, but what's playing on Instagram right now, it's going to play on TikTok, and it's going to play on YouTube Shorts. So while we can, let's ride this wave of momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you mentioned like the founder, and he's in a lot of those videos. Is that something that's important to your strategy, is kind of like the personal brand building around your founder, or is that just kind of something that you guys fell into and found success with?
Yeah, super important for us. He's led a lot of organizations from their like startups and invested in them and given them their guidance. So it's just kind of like, we're seeing his experience. Why not take what he's doing and give it out as a little bit of advice? Hopefully it can, generate some leads for him, help out his agency. But it's just been something that we've been leaning in on. And we've noticed when we use him in our SCI content that gets a little bit more of attention. So these people look to him as an influencer, someone who has experience, and they're interested in what his thoughts are on the market.
Oh, that's really cool. I love that. How does your role now of social content director differ from any of the roles that you've held in the past? Are you leading a team? Do you have any like management that you're responsible for? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so like I said, we're a very small organization, but I'm lucky right now. I get to work with a great individual named Cooper, and he splits time. He's a contractor with us. He works on our graphics, so he makes a lot of our YouTube thumbnails. He makes a lot of our website article thumbnails, but then he helps me with social. So like a lot, like you mentioned, you looked at our Instagram, it looks great. That's him. Like I give him, kind of like my thoughts, kind of like generate like what I think will work, and he makes it look beautiful. So it's been awesome working with him, and that's one thing that really drew me into this company, was having the ability to step outside of a one person type role into a role where I can have someone to bounce ideas off of that has that like same mindset mentality. He's done social in the past for a couple different sports and organizations, so he has that sports mindset, whereas I have like the social media and card mindset. So we're able to work together. He actually lives in Arizona, so I've never met him.
Oh, wow.
But it's he's probably, I talk to him more than I talk to my parents and my brother. It's a great team that we have.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How does working with a contractor, like, what's the behind the scenes with that? Like, how often are you interacting with him? I know you just said like so much, but what does that communication look like? What's your management style like with that? Because I know in the past I've had to work with contractors or freelancers, and they're not necessarily like on the same timeline as maybe my organization. So just would love to hear a little bit about your experience with that.
Yeah. So we communicate through Slack like nonstop. And this guy, bless his heart, he was up at like 6 a.m. their time today. And I'm like telling him, I'm like, you don't have to start like, like you can sleep. But we set up a time once a week as our like quote unquote stand up, where we'll just Slack or we'll get on video Slack for 45 minutes, and that's kind of like our taking off point for Wednesday. It's a good middle ground where we're able to like get through the day a little, like get through the week a little bit, but we're not at the end of the week where we just kind of want to, get to the weekend. But we get to chat a little bit about personal lives, get to learn a little bit about him, but then we're able to like run through our social content and be like, well, this is the direction I was thinking. This is a higher priority than the others. We've got some upcoming events. This is, we need to prepare for this. So, honestly, if you told me about it months ago, I would probably be scared of it. But I think I got very lucky with this one individual who just gets it, and he works so hard. And it's funny, like I said, our social media growth, when you look at it, like right around the time that he started helping me is like when things shot off.
Awesome.
So
Wow.
now I just kind of like, I refer to those times as like BC, we're living in during Cooper, DC. So I just tell him we can't have AC, you got to stick around.
He's got to stay. Funny. Well, shout out to Cooper. You're apparently the best. So that's amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's so interesting, especially with COVID. I feel like a lot of the marketing world has shifted to working with a lot of contractors. And at first, in the world of working with contractors, I think we kind of like looked at that as, oh, they're not actually employees of the company. Like we don't give them the same recognition and experience as a real team member does. But I think they're looking for that too. And I've noticed that too with people I work with, just they want the same recognition, appreciation that any other team member would want. And so making them feel kind of welcome and a part of the team and communicating as much as you would with another team member, I think probably helps a lot for them. So that's awesome.
Yeah. I love bouncing ideas off him, and I love the ideas that he brings to the table. Like he has brought these engagement play ideas that are just like things that I wouldn't have thought of to think of, like with sports cards. And it's, this past weekend we did one, it's like your favorite food is like, this is the card that you would get. So it's like you're a cheeseburger, then you get a Michael Jordan card.
That's awesome.
So he does a lot of those like fun, like this is your birth month, this is the card you get. And it's just, like those little things where you're trying to get people to, likes are important, but you see things kind of get more momentum if you can get the comments and you can get the saves and you can get the shares, where he gets that little aspect of it and has been able to cultivate that for us. And I think that's why he's been successful.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I'm looking right now at the Instagram as you're speaking and I see like, would you rather have this card or that card, or like tag someone who needs this? All of those call to actions, those are so smart. So that's awesome. Really cool.
Awesome. Yeah. I need to take a look more and get some inspiration, because I think for me, sometimes in social specifically, we can kind of run dry of ideas and ways to engage people. So that's so awesome that you guys are doing that and it's working well for you. So, Adam, I do have kind of a juicy question for you. So what would you say is the key to success in a social media role in general?
Communication throughout your organization is key, because the way that social media managers have this power now is like they're almost their voice is heard more often than a CEO's. So people are they have that accessibility where they're able to open their phone and directly connect with Clearwater Marine Aquarium, or directly connect with Sports Card Investor, rather than, seeing a newspaper article with the direct quotes. So finding success through communicating with other departments, saying, how can I help you execute your role to the public? So at the aquarium, whether that's HR and going to them and helping them, get out the opportunities that we have with volunteers or interns or staff that we need. Going to the culinary department and they're telling us, that they're coming out with new food at the food court. Going to the exhibit director and him coming to me with different exhibits that are coming out, or the animal care team. Being very present and being around a lot of these people and letting them know that you're there to help them will ultimately make your job easier, because these people are going to come to you. They're going to know that you're going to have that open door, that open Slack, where they can just say, hey, like, this is what I need help with. And that will, like Cassie just said, like you come to a burnout with social content. These people are here to, give you ideas for social content. It's up to your creativity to take that content that they're giving to you and deliver it in a way that is going to, overcome the quote unquote algorithm and get it to more people. So I would just say talking to people is key, and not even at work. It's just, meeting you two and your LinkedIn group and your podcast, those things are going to help you and further your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such great advice. And I think too, with communication, sometimes, especially early in our careers, I remember I was a little bit hesitant to present new ideas and to speak up and say, hey, what if we try this? And so do you have any tips around that, building confidence in presenting new ideas, to speaking up, whether it's to your leaders, to different departments, anything around that specific topic?
I'm not a fan of public speaking at all. Like, I hate getting
Same, and yet here we are in the middle of a podcast, which is the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, like just preparation, I think, is huge for me. I know that, like, going into like a discussion, a panel, talking to higher ups, it's just like knowing what you want to say and like getting it out, whether you're saying it to like the mirror on your car ride to work, during your lunch break, like, just, you'll find comfort in reps, right? Like, isn't that the key to working out, is just like doing it every day, and finding those things that will help you out. And I think that's the key to, talking to people around you that you might be uncomfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, knowing that you are in the position you're in for a reason, so you are the subject matter expert, I think is really important to remember too. Like, you can feel like you don't know what you're doing, but it's important to like just understand and recognize that you are where you are for a reason, and that they hired you for a certain reason or position or whatever. I come back to, I don't know who it was, it's escaping me right now, but somebody on one of our previous episodes said that exact thing, is like, you were hired on for a reason. There's a reason why you're in the spot that you're in, and you need to like step confidently into that. And I think that helps a lot in those conversations for sure. Do you have any predictions, just like looking forward, for the future of social media? I know there's been a lot of talk about video and how that's king right now. Do you think there's anything else that's coming up that will be quote unquote king? I know there's also Be Real, which is hilarious. I just was on another recording for our podcast, and we talked a little bit about how American Eagle just tapped into Be Real, which is crazy. I didn't even know that brands could like have an account. I don't know if it's like through an employee or what, but what do you foresee in the future? I think that it's going to be a lot more connection touch points with the customer, whether that's through something like Be Real or whatever the metaverse holds. But I'd love to hear your perspective.
I have two thoughts when I think of the future of social. The first one, like I go back to like the tourism marketing that I was able to do, and I think it's the expansion of augmented reality and the metaverse, those types of experiences. I saw that after I left, after Winter passed away, they had an experience where you're able to swim with Winter, where they had this 360 camera. So I think there's going to be more ways that you can like virtually tap into visiting locations. So like I think a lot of people right now, I know me, I'm very guilty of it. I'm going to go to a different city. I'm going to search that like the location. I'm going to look up all these restaurants and look at their Instagrams. So like, I feel like there's going to be a way for people to visit before they visit, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I think we're starting to see it a lot, but the removing of like web browser accessibility, where you're able to like experience everything from a brand's perspective by staying on the app. When I know I get served a lot of like shopping ads, and you hit the visit shop and you click on it and it just like opens to their Instagram shop. I don't think right now it's not like the best it could be, whereas a lot of times I go to the website, I just feel like I don't get enough products. But I think that they're gonna be able to have a bigger brand presence beyond their like profile grid, with whether that's like learning about the organization more in depth, or be able to shop with them, be able to consume their product, buy tickets to a sporting event. Things like that are gonna pop up a little bit more.
Yeah, that's so interesting too, because I feel like already we've seen, especially with Instagram specifically and TikTok, I'd say it's hard to get people off the platforms and to get them to click onto a web page or wherever it is outside of the platform. And so I am hoping to, especially with shopping specifically, that the experience within the apps is going to get so much better. And so we won't have to feel the need to click off of the platform, because I know how kind of annoying that is in a way for the experience to have to jump between different apps and remember what you were looking at on Instagram and things like that. So almost like an all-inclusive experience, I guess, on the applications. Yeah.
The day that I don't have to put link in bio or something is a day that I am going to be.
Wait, that is hilarious, because you just mentioned link in bio, and that's who I was talking to right before this.
Oh, really?
Later, the platform, like social media planning platform, they own link in bio.
I did not know that,
which is hilarious.
That is so funny. Well, we still love you, link in bio. But no, I totally understand that. It's so funny. I've always been so confused. I'm like, why hasn't Instagram allowed us to click on links in the captions? And I think it honestly is that very notion that they want to create these experiences all in the app, and they don't want us to jump off and go anywhere else. So, Adam, do you have a dream job? I'm curious about your answer to this question, because I personally don't know how I would answer this question, because I'm still trying to figure it out myself. But two parts. Do you have a dream job, and how do you determine what your dream job looks like, or how are you working to determine what that looks like for yourself?
Well, first, I would say like the organizations that I've all worked for, I have been extremely lucky, because I would say that they're dream organizations for a lot of people to work for in the world. I have been able to, when I was up at Mystic, they rescued a manatee off the coast of Cape Cod. And if the temperature dropped like, I think it was like 3 more degrees in the water, she would have got cold stun. Wow. And I was able to fly to Orlando and get to be a part of that release and do a Facebook Live. And then with the aquarium, like I was able to be a part of so many sea turtle releases, Clearwater, able to be a part of so many sea turtle releases, introduce these rescued animals that, without the aquarium's help would most likely not be able to survive on their own. So those things I'm very grateful for. I don't know if I can keep this ball momentum rolling. Like now I get to work in sports, where it's just like, that's 90% of my TV anyway. the other 10% is House of Dragons. But I think if you're talking about like a role, I would just love to see a step for me to continue to progress, like maybe some sort of digital media like strategist role where I'm like I said, I like to build things. So being able to say like, this is the next frontier of social, should be our plan going into it. But then also like helping continue like oversee a team that builds out the rest of the digital strategy, where it's, whether it's Facebook ads, Google ads, a social media manager. Like I think one thing working with Cooper is seeing that reward of being able to like work with somebody and see them grow has been super fulfilling. So I'd love to be able to, further my career and say, that I'm able to give my experiences that I've had in like very uncertain times and facing adversity and learning something new on the fly, and being able to give those experiences to someone else to help them succeed in a position.
Yeah. Awesome. And that's very admirable. And I think that's incredible. So thank you for that. Just lastly, or coming up to the end of the interview here, we know a lot of social media managers and content creators alike struggle with burnout. We mentioned it a little bit earlier, but is that something that you've encountered, whether that's a season of like creative block or just overall burnout as a working professional? And how have you moved through that time?
Yeah, of course. It's there's no way to avoid it. I think at this point, when you're getting like the reports of your screen time and you're on social media, and then you get home and it's like you eat dinner, you work out, and then you get on the couch and you turn on TV, and then you open Instagram and it's like, I gotta
can't escape
a little
it.
bit. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is taking PTO, right? And taking PTO meaningfully. So, I went home a couple months ago to see my parents in Connecticut and was able to disconnect. And that was in part to a team being able to step in and say, hey, you're on vacation, like take your time with your family. We got this. So having a strong group around you is important. As far as like content burnout, it's a little hard. The biggest thing that like I take away that I've been doing at work lately is when it comes to those tasks that don't need to be on a computer. So like planning out my day, I write it down. Like I do a lot of things on notepads. I do a lot of things away from screens. And then I batch a lot of that stuff that I do that is content driven. So in the morning, that'll be like reviewing the graphics that Cooper made the night before, writing the copy that goes for it, monitoring our DMs, a lot of like content driven things. And then I'll build out another batch window where it's more like research driven things, where I'm, going through TikTok, going through the blogs, going through the podcasts. So I think it's very important to build out these like very structural parts of your day, and making sure that you're following it. But as social media goes, you got to be flexible. So some things may pop up, but structure is important, PTO is important, and just overall like knowing when you need a moment to step away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That took me a while to learn myself, especially in the world of social, because it's hard to turn it off. And even with PTO, I found myself on my brand's pages and checking them out and seeing what was going on. So I think to your point, just having the team, trusting them and knowing that they're going to take care of it and nothing's going to burn to the ground if you step away for a few days, I think is such a powerful note, which kind of leads to my next question. And it's something we love to ask on this show. So Adam, what do you know now that you wish you knew early on in your career?
Don't put too much weight on yourself over one post. I think that there's a lot of times where I would send up a post. It would go out at like say 4:30 because I knew that's an optimal time. And I get home and I do what I need to do and I check it and it's not performing like I thought it was. There were times where I'd let that destroy my night and be like, oh, why, I thought that was going to work in the algorithm. I thought that was going to get more comments. And you can't. I want to do the math on this. Being in social for like 7 to 8 years, how many posts that I've put out, because not one has ever really dramatically shifted my career in one way or the other. It's about consistency. So I would go back and tell myself, like, don't sweat one single Instagram post or one single tweet. It's gonna be all right.
Yeah, that's definitely important to remember. Adam, well, we've reached the end of our interview here. Thank you so much for joining us. We'd love to let everyone know where they can find you, follow along with you and everything that you're doing with Sports Card Investor, and what you're up to now. So where can we find you, follow you?
Of course. I mean, if you want to see my work, Sports Card Investor on all the social platforms that I mentioned, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can check me out on LinkedIn. Just Adam Cilley. It's spelled Cilley. I don't know how it is silly, but it is silly. And then you can check out my own personal socials, but I am boring. I'm just at Adam Cilley. You will see a lot of pictures of my dog Finn, and you'll see a lot of sports posts.
Love it.
Love that. Wait, we have to know what are your sports teams? Who do you cheer for?
Oh man. So Connecticut native, but then I moved down to Tampa and I love it. So this is the one thing that I'm like currently fighting with myself about. Like, this is where I'm going to live for the rest of my life. I'm definitely Tampa Bay Lightning. I got to meet the Stanley Cup Lightning.
Yep.
I think I gotta stick with the Red Sox. I mean, I'm sorry, Tropicana Field just doesn't do it for me.
No.
And then, I can't pick Bucks or Patriots. It's just so hard. Like, Tom Brady coming down here was just everything. Like, it just worked so well. But I probably, like, going to Patriot games, there's like a 50-year waiting list for season tickets.
Oh my gosh.
So I remember when Brady signed, I like went on the Buccaneers website and I was like, yeah, you can get season tickets wherever you want. I was just like, I'll take them. So yeah, I enjoy both teams right now.
That's
okay,
too funny.
got it.
Oh my gosh. I totally agree though with the Rays, and I'm sorry if anyone's listening from the Rays, but love my Tampa sports teams. But I was at the Yankee Stadium 2 nights ago, which, sorry, Adam, if you're a Boston fan. And I was like, man, this experience, the game didn't actually happen. It got rained out, which was not great. But I was like, man, this experience is just so great compared to what we have down here. So yeah, there's some great sports up there.
Sad. I am a huge baseball gal. And so it breaks my heart that no one loves the Rays, but it's fine. I'll be here in my corner, just cheering them on myself. It's fine. Well, thanks so much, Adam, for joining us. This was amazing and so exciting to keep seeing what you're doing with Sports Card Investor. It'll be really cool to follow along with you. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
That's it for this week. Thank you again for listening. We truly, truly appreciate it. If you loved this episode, please remember to rate the show and leave a review. To get more involved with the Marketing Happy Hour community, check out the show notes to sign up for our LinkedIn newsletter, email list, and join our LinkedIn group, Marketing Happy Hour Insiders. And as always, follow us on Instagram at Marketing Happy Hour. That's at Marketing Happy HR. Catch you next time.